I quit my job on camera and went viral, but no one knows what happened after that. 3 months ago, I quit my corporate job on a livestream in front of 22,000 people, no warning. No pre-recorded content. Just me, sitting in my home office in a button-up shirt that still had the store tag on it, staring into the webcam while my heart tried to beat its way out of my chest. I had rehearsed the speech maybe 50 times. In my head, it was powerful, emotional, but clean. Confident. Something that would make people say, finally, someone said it. But when the moment actually came, my mouth went dry, my voice cracked, and all I could manage was, I can't do this anymore. I'm not okay. And if I pretend to be, just for a paycheck, I'll lose what's left of myself. Then I took off the headset, shut my laptop, and just sat there. In total silence, for about 3 minutes, I genuinely thought I'd ruined my life. I was a mid-level marketing manager for a tech startup, the kind that claims to have a chill culture in a nap room, but still sends Slack messages at 2 a.m. expecting immediate answers. The job wasn't awful at first. It paid okay, the office had cold brew on tap, and for the first time in my life, my parents actually bragged about what I did. It felt like I had finally made it into the safe lane. Benefits, security, a LinkedIn banner photo with glass walls and natural lighting. But over time, the safe lane turned into a pressure cooker. I was juggling more campaigns than we had team members, working weekends just to stay on top of things, and answering passive-aggressive emails with fake enthusiasm that made me want to scream into a pillow. I started getting stress rashes on my arms. My sleep was garbage. My social life disappeared, and the worst part? No one noticed, or maybe they did, but didn't care, because I kept delivering. The livestream wasn't some calculated PR stunt. I didn't plan to go viral. In fact, I almost didn't even hit the button to go live. It started as a regular weekly check-in with my small personal audience, a few thousand followers who like my mini productivity tips, work from home memes, and the occasional corporate cringe story time. But that day, I was breaking. I couldn't fake a smile anymore. I couldn't pretend that this job was a blessing or that I was just grinding through the tough part. So I talked about the Sunday dread. The meaningless metrics. The meetings where I felt like a prop. The fact that I'd been given Employee of the Month after pulling a 76-hour week, and I cried alone in the bathroom because I didn't want that to become my new standard. Then I quit, on air. No backup plan. No next step lined up. Just raw emotion and a terrifying sense of freedom. The next morning, I woke up to hundreds of missed notifications. My clip had been posted on Twitter, then TikTok, then Reddit. Some called me brave. Others called me stupid. A few asked if it was staged. One headline read, "Corporate burnout victim snaps on livestream, quits job mid-Zoom." Another said, he couldn't handle the heat so he logged off. I was a meme. A symbol. A conversation starter in comment sections I didn't even know existed. My inbox was flooded. Some people thanked me for speaking out. Others shared their own horror stories, bosses who micromanaged bathroom breaks. HR departments that swept breakdowns under the rug, companies that used "we're a family" as a threat, not a comfort, and amid all that digital noise, I felt both seen and invisible at the same time, because while everyone was reacting to the moment, no one was talking about what came after. The hardest part wasn't quitting. It was the day after. There was no applause. No magical job offer. No universal sign that I'd done the right thing, just bills. And doubt, and a refrigerator with half a loaf of bread and expired almond milk. I started second-guessing everything. Was I impulsive? Was this just burnout talking? Should I have stayed until the next promotion? My parents were confused, too. My dad said I should have waited until I had something else lined up. My mom was worried about my resume. My sister, bless her heart, said, "You're trending on Twitter, that's something, right?" I smiled. But inside, I was unraveling. What changed me wasn't a job offer or a lucky break. It was a DM from a guy named Jamal. He was a security guard at a corporate office, someone who followed me for the memes. He wrote, "Bro, I watched your stream during my shift. Made me cry in the booth. I thought I was the only one feeling like I was disappearing." We talked for hours. He told me about how he used to draw comics during night shifts but hadn't picked up a pencil in 2 years. I told him about how I used to write music before my job sucked all the creativity out of me, and we made a pact. Every Sunday, we'd check in and share one thing we made. A sketch. A lyric. A blog post. Anything, that tiny ritual? It saved me, because it reminded me that I wasn't broken, I was just disconnected from the parts of myself that made life worth living. I started freelancing again. Nothing fancy, just small gigs here and there, helping indie brands with copywriting, doing voiceovers, narrating audiobooks. My bank account wasn't thrilled. But my soul was lighter. I started making content that felt real, not just algorithm chasing trends, but stories. Thoughts. Rants. Some flopped. Some hit. But it was mine. I reconnected with people I'd lost touch with, folks who had also walked away from traditional careers and were now building weird, wonderful, creative lives on their own terms. We weren't influencers. We weren't crushing it. We were just honest, and it felt like breathing after years underwater. Here's what no one tells you when you quit a job that's eating you alive. You don't suddenly become happy, you just start the slow, painful, liberating process of learning who you are when you're no longer surviving someone else's expectations. You mourn the identity you built around the job title. You panic when the money runs low. You question your value in a world that worships output over authenticity, but you also laugh more. Sleep deeper. Cry for real reasons, not just stress, and if you're lucky, really lucky, you start to rebuild a life that makes sense to you, not just your LinkedIn followers. This isn't a fairy tale. I didn't land a six-figure sponsorship. I'm not living in Bali working 4 hours a week. I still get scared. Still get emails from recruiters I sometimes want to answer. Just to feel safe again, but I'm not numb anymore, and that's something. I thought the hardest part was quitting. Turns out, the real challenge was staying off the hamster wheel, resisting the urge to crawl back the moment things got uncomfortable, and figuring out who I was without the constant validation of being busy or in demand. After my live stream exploded, a part of me expected everything to fall into place. Like the universe would suddenly reward me for being brave. Like clarity would show up in my inbox next to a "we loved your video" email from some dream job I didn't know I wanted. Instead, I got offers I couldn't stomach, consulting gigs from companies that wanted to leverage my moment. As if what I did was a brand campaign and not an emotional breakdown caught on camera. Viral moments are like fireworks, loud, fast, and unforgettable. But they burn out quickly, and when they do, you're left in the dark wondering what to do next. 2 weeks after my clip peaked, the comments slowed. The reactions turned into reposts with fewer likes. And just like that, the algorithm moved on, but I couldn't, because while the internet forgot, my life was still happening. I still had rent. Still had days where my motivation evaporated the second I opened my laptop. Still had mornings where I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I made a huge mistake. One afternoon, I found myself scrolling job listings again, not because I wanted any of them, but because I missed the feeling of structure. I missed waking up with a set agenda, even if it was soul-sucking. Freedom, as romantic as it sounds, can be paralyzing when you don't know how to fill the silence. Just when I was about to cave, to throw in the towel and go back to the corporate world with a half-hearted "LOL I'm back" post, I got a message from a girl named Aria. She was 19. First year in college. She said she watched my video on a loop the night she decided not to accept a summer internship that made her feel sick to her stomach. She didn't have a big plan yet, just a gut feeling that she wasn't meant to spend her life being quiet and good in glass-walled offices. Then she said, "I don't know if I'll figure it out. But because you were honest, I feel like I have permission to try." I cried reading it. Not the Hollywood-style single tear down the cheek. Ugly crying. Red eyes. Snot. The whole mess, because for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a failure. I felt like maybe my story mattered, even if I didn't tie it up with a perfect ending. That night, I wrote a script for a short film idea I'd been sitting on since college. Nothing fancy, just a monologue, really. A character stuck in a loop of Zoom meetings, slowly losing touch with the world outside her apartment. It wasn't a masterpiece. But it was honest. It was something I would have related to 6 months ago, back when I was still nodding my way through meaningless sinks and eating dinner with Slack still open. I filmed it in my living room using a second-hand DSLR and a ring light from my closet. Posted it to YouTube with zero expectations. It hit 10,000 views in 2 days, and more importantly, people felt it, not because the lighting was perfect or the algorithm picked it up, but because it was real. Because someone, somewhere, saw a piece of themselves in it. That's when I realized I wasn't chasing numbers anymore. I was chasing connection, but here's the part no one warns you about. When you show up honestly, not everyone claps. Some people started calling me the burnout guy. Like I was just a mascot for corporate angst, not a human being figuring things out in public. Others accused me of glamorizing quitting, like I was selling a fantasy to people who couldn't afford to walk away. They didn't see the nights I ate cereal for dinner or spent hours debating whether to cancel health insurance. They saw the clicks, the comments, the cool aftermath. There were even think pieces. One headline read, "Is authenticity just another performance?" At first, I was furious. I wanted to clap back, correct the record, explain that I never asked to be a spokesperson for burnout culture, but then I realized the internet doesn't want you. It wants your story, trimmed and filtered for engagement, so I stopped trying to control the narrative. I leaned into the quiet. Focused on the people who got it, not the ones who misunderstood. 6 months after I quit, I made enough from freelance work and small sponsorships to cover my basics. Nothing flashy. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to prove my worth with numbers or titles. I started hosting live sessions, not about productivity hacks or how to quit your job, but about uncertainty. About rebuilding. About the weird, wobbly middle where most of us actually live, and slowly, people showed up, not thousands. Just dozens at first. But they stayed. They listened. They shared. We built something honest, imperfect, and real. Jamal, the security guard? He sent me one of his comics, a short story about a janitor who secretly paints murals in abandoned stairwells. It made me cry again. That's when I knew this whole detour wasn't a waste, it was a beginning. Quitting doesn't fix everything, it won't magically heal you. It won't make the fear go away. It won't erase the voice in your head telling you you're falling behind. But it does something else, something quieter, slower, but way more powerful. It gives you back your voice. And when you start speaking in that voice, not the corporate script, not the polished version you post online, you attract people who aren't looking for perfection, they're looking for truth. Sometimes I miss the old stability. I miss PTO and guaranteed income and not having to explain what I do at family dinners. But then I think about that moment, right before I went live, when my hand was shaking over the start stream button, and how, for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what would happen if I told the truth. And I realized, the real risk was never quitting the job, the real risk was staying silent, staying small, and waking up 10 years later in a life that never felt like mine.